story.
Born the youngest of 8 in the mountains of Norway, Leif Oysted began his life skiing on barrel slats because at the age of 4, skis were just too long for his short stature. By the age of 13, he was out of school and working on the high seas, his days and nights full of back-breaking and heavy labor. But if it was adventure that Oysted wanted, it was indeed adventure he would get. While working the seas, word came to him in 1940 that Hitler and his army had occupied his homeland of Norway. Worried for friends and family left behind, Oysted began a journey that would not only change destiny, but indeed changed the face of the entire world. He moved to New York City. He began the process of becoming a citizen with the sole motivation of joining the armed forces and driving the Nazis out of his homeland. In 1942, that day came, but he had simply one condition. He said, and I quote, "If I'm about to give my life for this country, I would prefer to do it as an American citizen." And within an hour, he was. Now, nearly 70 years later, he has a sense of humor about the whole thing.
You always have that at the back of your neck that, gosh, I think I ought to get paid for this, you know.
I ought to get paid for this.
Yeah.
He joined the OSS, which later became known as the CIA, and began to train the Norwegian Special Operations Group, now known as NORSO, on just how to handle the challenging terrain his homeland possesses. NORSO exists to this day, and it is for that reason that King Harald V of Norway sent an emissary to present a man with 2 bronze stars, yet another medal, the Defense Medal. That's the equivalent of a bronze star in his native Norway. Make no mistake, the legacy of what Oysted began exists to this very day.
A section of the Home Guard back in Norway has given the name Rype to an elite unit within the Home Guard back in Norway. So this elite unit is are keeping the memories of the Operation Rype that Leif Oysted was a part of. In 1945, they're keeping this alive through their daily work in Norway today.
There's no question that Leif is a hero on at least 2 continents. In fact, the American flag is being flown over the United States Capitol today in his honor. But when I asked him about his service overseas, my favorite story was actually a story about Martha's Vineyard. Oysted and his team were training at Martha's Vineyard, challenged with overtaking a base and painting white X's on anything and everything that should be blown up. Power lines, houses, cars, trucks, whatever. Well, they were successful, as they usually were. But this time they were a little, let's just say, forgetful.
And then they went through speaking Norwegian and rounded up every military person inside this radar site and tied them up. And they used a technique called Fairburn style, which is a very difficult knot to get out of. And so they're sitting with their legs crossed and their hands tied. They can't move. And they got out a bucket of paint and they painted white X's all over this place. Every tower and building and power cable, and just the whole place was covered in X's. They got back in the truck, they got back on their faux boats, they got back on the submarine, and about 2 hours later they realized those guys are still tied up. So the submarine had to radio the sheriff and say, get over there and untie these guys. And,
Poor sheriff.
And they were mad as you can imagine. They were pretty hot.
Good conquered evil at the end of war to end all wars. The Nazis were defeated and Hitler took a coward's way out. Oysted came home, and he came home a man who instilled the case-hardened will and fortitude that he had learned over there in his children over here. And while the metals may rust, and lives inevitably end, it's our legacy, his legacy, that will no doubt continue to help shape our world.
Well, that's a part of your character, a component of your character that gets instilled at a very early age, and he certainly did that, both not only with me but with my sister. A sense of service to others. I like to think that he certainly has served others. If not for the bravery that he exhibited, this would be a very different world.
On behalf of a grateful nation, Mike McNeil, Fox 4 News.
The flag over the United States Capitol today is being flown in Oisted's honor. Congressman Kevin Brady will present this flag to him in